by creating a shape, and then we would extrude that shape and individually do all the things that we need to do to create other elements in that shape. So for instance, if I wanted to, put a door on this building, then I would either do it as part of the floor plan process and extrude it that way, or I would model it manually in 3D and push this out and do all of these things manually. So that's kind of like the old school way of creating 3D models. The industry now is turning more towards the parametric process, which I just kind of started to talk about. So you are going to receive data, and that data is going to include buildings that have been kind of clipped to fit within a tile and the actual tile boundary. So it'll look something like this. The building data that you've been working on, getting information, which is the number of stories and the roof type. So what I would like to do is I want to walk you through creating a project in CityEngine, bringing in that data, and then creating the CGA rules that allows us to create these models parametrically. So to create a project, you go to File, New, and CityEngine Project. We'll call this the Chicago 3D. And I'm just going to give it a extra name there because I already have a Chicago 3D model. Then you click Finish. So this is how you create a, oops, I need to fix the spelling there. Okay, so this is how you create a project in CityEngine. You can also access your CityEngine files using a Windows Explorer if you use a PC, or a Navigator if you use a Mac. I think both of you are using PC, so you would go to your C drive, Users, and then you would find your CityEngine folder. And all of the projects that you created are in here. So here is the project that I just created. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because this is how you would bring in your data. So for instance, right now my data folder is empty. I just created this project. You will receive, each of you will receive the buildings and the tile boundaries. I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste an example tile. So I'm going to model today with you tile number 5, so that so we can learn how to do this together, and then you can go and model the tiles that you're assigned. So tile 5 will have spatial data. You can't really you can't use Windows Explorer to kind of read this data, because this data is right now in GIS speak. So for instance, this is all tile 5, all the files that begin with tile 5 relate to the actual square shape that represents the platform where the buildings will be on top of. And all the tiles that are named, all the files that begin with buildings tile 5 are the buildings within that tile. So all of these files are doing something special. This is all of these files consist of the shape file. So for instance, the PRJ, that's a projection file. That file helps to project this in a georeferenced, accurately georeferenced place, meaning the XY coordinates of this shape is going to match where it actually is in the real world. And the shape, the SHP, is the shape that works with the PRJ file to actually project the file into a square shape, and that you'll see in just a second. So anyway, what you do is when you download the data that I'll be emailing to you, you make a copy of it and paste it inside the data file in your new CityEngine project. You can also import the data in the CityEngine platform itself by right-clicking, import, and then following the windows here to find the file that we just imported. So you would go to File, Files, into Existing Project, File System, and then go through the process to find that wherever you saved the data that I'll be emailing to you. So different ways of getting your data inside your file. I prefer to just transfer it using like Windows or the Navigator. So once you have your data in there, what you have to do is you have to create a new scene. Right now what you see here, this is part of a scene in a different project. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click the scene folder, create new scene, and we're just going to call this existing. You have to choose the correct coordinate system. And we are in state plane. And we have to find Chicago. Which I'm pretty sure it's Chicago East. Let me double check. Yes, it's Chicago East. So I'm happy to talk to you individually to kind of like get into more information about what projection you use when you create your scene. That's kind of like, that could be like an entire class to talk about projections. For now, just know that when you create your scene, you have to use the Chicago East. Okay, so I have my scene created, and it's empty. There's no data in here. The first thing we want to do is we want to bring in, we can actually bring in the terrain, and I'll show you how to do that, but for the purpose of this exercise, we're not going to use this terrain other than to just align our features to it. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So you'll need to make sure that you're signed in to your account.